Hello and welcome into another installment of Mauricio's Corner along with Mauricio Ruiz. I'm Cole Pepper, and boy, do we have some soccer to talk about this week. Coming up, we're going to take a closer look at one of the big matchups in the USL Championship this week, the battle in Texas, and Mauricio's going to have a tactical look at that. Boy, we also had some US Open Cup action. A lot to get to, so let's start, though, Mauricio, with a big story coming out of the USL Championship this week, and that is the transfer of 18-year-old Joshua Winder from Louisville FC off to the defending Portuguese champions. This is a big move for a young player in USL Championship.
Yeah, it's a big move for any player in any league, getting to a UEFA Champions League team, but certainly for the USL and what it says about the USL and the development of players in the USL, it's something that a lot of teams are going to start looking at the Louisville model and what did they do, how did they find him, where did he come from, and how can we replicate this? You look at $1.2 million plus add-ons, that changes the organization from an academy standpoint and many other resources.
He goes from Louisville to Benfica, but he really was a homegrown product, which comes up through the Louisville system. And this is what we can expect potentially to happen here in Jacksonville as JaxUSL gets launched.
Yeah, and that's the goal, that you can identify and develop local players and eventually get them to fulfill their dreams, but certainly be able to develop and play for the first team. So it's a player that in the USL has had the ability since 17 years old, sign a USL contract, be able to get first team minutes, realistic minutes, get all the way up to the national team. He's had U20, just played in the U20 World Cup, but he's been also called to the senior national team as well. So locally, for every market, and certainly here in Jacksonville, how can we identify a player like him? Different profiles is fine, but eventually get to the same pathway to play for the national team and then eventually get sold to Europe.
There may be a player out there right now somewhere watching this video who could follow that same path here in Jacksonville. All right, let's take a close look now at the US Open Cup semifinal, or rather quarterfinal action. And in both quarterfinal matchups that involved USL Championship teams, they fell in the quarterfinals. Birmingham, a 1-0 loss to Inter Miami, who had some other news this week as well. But big news in Birmingham, huge crowd for this matchup.
Yeah, and that's really where I had my eyes on. It was a home game. We look at Pittsburgh. They're up against it. Pittsburgh gave Cincinnati the best run, but playing in Cincinnati, packed crowd for a U.S. Open Cup quarterfinal game. But I have my eyes on Birmingham. 18,000 plus, a record for Birmingham. Gave Inter Miami all that they could ask for, and unfortunately, late in the game, kind of just came a little bit short. What a great run.
Yeah, you talk about getting into the quarterfinals. We mentioned that Sacramento Republic got into the finals last year. Getting into the quarterfinals, though, certainly no easy task for this USL Championship team. So hats off to both Pittsburgh and to Birmingham for making it this far. All right, as for the action in the USL Championship, you see the results there, and a couple of numbers that really jump out at me. You see Tampa Bay Rowdies with a victory over New Mexico United. Tampa Bay continues to play very, very well. Colorado Switchbacks putting up a 4 spot in their game. What else jumps out at you, Mauricio?
Well, you're looking at Memphis, and we'll look at the table here in a little bit, but Memphis still has 2 to 3 games in hand versus the top of the league, and they just continue to win. I think they're on a 5-game win streak at the moment, and they go to Louisville, which is a difficult place to go to, and get not just a result, but a really good result. And at the top of the table there, you see it was number 1 versus number 2 going into this game. Pittsburgh, which were also in the U.S. Open Cup, but they're also on a 5-game unbeaten streak at the moment, and to be able to get a 2-0 win against Charleston and to get the top of the table, that's a big win.
Let's take a closer look at the table. We'll start out west with Sacramento Republic continuing to hang there at the top, but boy, El Paso, 10 straight games without a loss, and look out for the Locomotive.
Oh, look out, and we keep saying this every single week, and in our game of the week, El Paso versus San Antonio, the battle for second place, they both stay where they were because it was a tied game, but I think they're inching closer to Sacramento. They continue to hold on strong, but they're not separating themselves as much because they're getting a couple ties in there as well, so really locked up there from second to fourth, really tight schedule.
I'll also point out in 5th place in the West, Oakland Roots, who have gone 3-1-1 in their last 5. After a little bit of a sluggish start, they're starting to put things together there in the Bay Area.
Yeah, Oakland Roots, I think it's one of the teams to be looking out for. Similar to how El Paso was a few weeks back. They were in that 6th place, but they were climbing slowly. I think that's exactly how we need to be looking at the Roots right now.
All right, let's take a look at the East, and this, of course, will be the conference that Jacksonville will be playing in once play begins for JaxUSL. And as you mentioned, we have a new first-place team in the East with Pittsburgh getting the win over Charleston to leapfrog the Battery. into the top spot, 26 points at the top of the table. But look out for the Tampa Bay Rowdies. You've got Pittsburgh red hot, 5 straight wins. Tampa Bay unbeaten in their last 5, 4-0-1. Memphis has won 5 straight. They have games in hand, too, on everybody else in the conference. Those are some teams really making a charge right now as we near the midway point of the season.
Yeah, Memphis and Tampa Bay really have climbed up the most in the last couple of weeks. But I want us to take a look at Indy, number 7 there. A couple weeks ago, they were right flirting with that line. You look at Birmingham in front of them. They lost 5 in a row. Indy's starting to get better. They're starting to get healthy. They've signed some new players. So, if in a couple of weeks, I expect Indy to be fighting for that 5th place. It's a little bit challenging there, but really packed up once again, right in that 3rd to 5th place. There are a lot of quality. The games are really competitive, but Tampa Bay Rowdies are pushing for the top of the league.
We'll be keeping a close eye on this as the postseason approaches. Again, just about halfway through so far in the USL Championship season. All right, now to our game of the week. We mentioned it earlier, the battle in Texas, as we saw El Paso and San Antonio going at it. Mauricio, this was a game of contrasting styles, to be sure.
Well, absolutely. San Antonio, defending champion of the USL Championship. They play at a very direct, a very vertical style. They press up against you a lot. And El Paso is opposite on the attacking style. They like to build through the lines. They like to find those little pockets of play. So really contrasting. A battle of Texas as well, fighting for that 2nd, 3rd spot. Both trying to fight with Sacramento at the top. So it was a really enjoyable game. 2 goals, but loads of goals actually called back off of a kind of clear offside. So interesting game to kind of take a look at. So love to take you into a little bit into the game and really looking at El Paso in blue there. If you look distinctively, they're setting up in a 2-4. 3-2-1 kind of going forward, and San Antonio in the red spots, really defending almost man-to-man all over the field. Diaz, goalkeeper, loaned from Tijuana, beautiful ball through. He did that all over the field. And this is where El Paso really kind of creates their identity. They like to play into these little pockets. San Antonio does a great job of condensing the space, denying the central ball. Now, El Paso is really patient on the ball, but what do they keep doing? Keep occupying those central spaces. They want to get into those pockets, and just lovely little combination. 2 flick plays there, getting the ball out wide, finding the central channel. And this is where San Antonio does a good job, and this is unique to them. If once they're pressing to a man, they stay with a man. This is Tater, their center back captain, follows the midfield all the way into the midfield, cannot let him turn. When he does turn and get forward, he has to foul him. They're 1v1, 4v4 kind of in the final third. So El Paso, a team that loves to keep the ball, but San Antonio, a team that is complete. They defend well, they attack well, and they're really, really good set pieces. As you see here with Tater, the center back, the one we just mentioned, big boy, comes to the top. This is the 6th corner kick in the first half. So a lot of pressure on El Paso.
We saw some different ways to score goals, to be sure. That off the set piece. Now here for El Paso, long ball over the top and a mistake.
Well, San Antonio presses so far up that their back line has to be exposed. So goalkeeper has to play off his line. And when he's late and he's delayed, he makes a mistake, and they're able to capitalize on that.
So that was 1-1 at halftime. Here is second half action.
Well, San Antonio, once again, you can see there a direct ball in, a mistake by El Paso, 2 mistakes resulting into a goal. And Dia, his first goal of the season, puts it away nice and calmly. A lot of offsides kind of contention in this game. VAR would have been extremely helpful in this game, but certainly helped both teams.
I can't believe you actually said VAR would be helpful. We'll talk about that later. And here is the equalizer for San Antonio.
Yeah, an equalizer. Yeah, and Lucho, former San Antonio player, coming back into San Antonio, and a really good crowd, as you can see. One of the better forwards in the league, 7 goals. He's 2nd to 3rd in the leading goal scorer right now. But a very competitive game, as you can see.
It's shaping up to be a very interesting chase to the playoffs in both the East and the West. We'll be keeping a close eye on that. And as you see, our game of the week coming up next week. Memphis, that's been on a roll. We talked about that. They'll take on Detroit City FC. That's a game you can watch on ESPN Plus on Saturday beginning at 8:30. We'll have a breakdown of that one coming up next week. We also have a lot to look forward to, Mauricio, here over the course of the summer, not just the USL Championship season, but of course all the build-up involved with JaxUSL.
Yeah, we have tons of opportunities. We're going to do watch parties for the U.S. Women's National Team events going into the World Cup. They'll be later in July. The Gold Cup is also happening as well. The U.S. Men's National Team just announced their roster. We're looking forward to getting the announcement of the women's roster as well. So several different opportunities to engage with USL Jax and really get engaged with our soccer community.
Be sure to subscribe here on YouTube. Be sure to sign up for the newsletter at JaxUSL.com and follow us on our social channels. We'll have more coming up next week on the next installment of Mauricio's Corner.